conversation on HIV/AIDS. We've got some information on autism, awareness, and some blood issues in the next hour. But for now, it's the breakfast review with me, GHToday, and my guests. Stay with us. It's great. Good to have you here. My guest is Nana Damoah. He's the head of communications at the Ministry of Energy. Nana, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you here.
Good to see you too.
Okay, since you are with the Energy Ministry, let's kick off with an energy story. Page 18, today's Ghanaian Times. Utility service providers propose increase in tariffs. So they have proposed to the PURC, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, they've proposed an upward adjustment, which means an increase, really, of tariffs in this year's major tariff review. Now, this is in spite of a projection in the 2018 budget that electricity tariffs would be reduced this year. And you do remember, some time back, the president was talking about some 14% decrease in tariffs for non-residential users. ECG is proposing an increase from 22 pesos to 36 pesos per kilowatt hour. Gridco is proposing an increase from 50 pesos to 60 pesos per kilowatt hour. And NEDCO, which is a Northern Electricity Distribution Company, it wants a charge of 67 pesos. Various people are looking for upward increases. And Nana, how does this sit with the president's desire to lower some of these tariffs and the budget proposing that tariffs come down?
Thank you very much. I don't see any conflict whatsoever. You see, ideally, what you should look at is the point of views of each of these institutions that we are talking about. Government is responsible for the running of the entire economy. So government takes a holistic view of everything that is happening within the economy. ECG, NEDCO, Gridco, they all look at it within their various domains. Now, in all of these calculations, you need to bear in mind what it is that informs these decisions that are made by these organizations. For example, if you take a look at Gridco is interested in, its own ability to be able to create the optimal working space for staff of the organization. So what they're looking at is being able to work with the best equipment, being able to have the best service conditions, being able to be comfortable within the domain within which they work. ECG is also saying. So as they are making these proposals, we are aware that they will be making these proposals. But the critical thing is that, it's nothing strange. In times past, they've always been making, I remember there was a point where they made a call for about a 400% increase in tariffs, among others. And all of these things are looked at from the ambit also of the ultimate arbiter, which is PURC. PURC will have to run the math. PURC will have to look at all of these proposals that have come in. They would also have to look at the proposals of government. They would also have to listen to the views of individuals and then put it into the matrix and come up with the final decider. We are very confident that the proposal that we have made will hold sway at the end of the day. Because
what is your proposal?
We made a series of proposals which were encapsulated in the budget that residential users of electricity should see about a 13% drop in tariffs. We're also proposing that non-residential users of electricity should see a 14% drop, and then the mining enclaves should see about a 21% drop in electricity tariffs.
But how does that square with all these increases these people want? Because even if they leave the tariffs at the existing rates, it's not going to lead to a 14% drop.
That's what I'm saying, that you should look at it from the point of view that these are organizations that are looking for their own interests as staff and as management of the organizations. They haven't necessarily done an economy-wide impact analysis of what these things they're asking for would do. For example, take GH1. I'm sure that if staff of GH1 are asked what it is that they want, everybody will come up with, I want a MacBook PC to work with, I want this, I want that, I want that. All of these things are proposals. But at the end of the day, it is up to management at a certain level, the board of directors, to look at it from an investment point of view, that really, okay, so staff are asking us to put in an extra $17 million. But looking at the market in which we play, an extra $17 million, looking at the return on investment among others, does it make sense to do this or not? And again, management or directors at that level would not be interested in starving the station of funds to let it collapse. But they will be looking at being able to run it at a level where it is optimum, in that your costs side by side your revenues will ensure some respectable levels of profit. It's the same role that we're asking the PRC to play. Look at it that look at it that NEDCO and all these organizations are looking out for their interests. They are the staff. They are asking for what they want and what they think they can get or what they think they deserve. Government is saying no, we are looking at the entire industry and these things do not help us. Rather, we know that you can work with this minimum and still be able to maintain a healthy system, make the necessary investment, and Ghana will still continue to work and work very well. PURC is the arbiter. PURC is the board of directors in this scenario that I've just given. And PURC will look at all of these situations and all of these instances and come up with the decision, which we believe will be in consonance with what it is that we have proposed, because we've actually gone through it and done all the works, and we are very confident that we'll get what we want.
Listen to ECG's justifications for the increase. They say increasing cost of generation and fuel, foreign exchange losses, these are some of the factors that have resulted in their request. If those mixes don't change, no matter how sweet the words are, they will still need more money to run the
increasing cost of
operations.
generation, for instance, is an issue because, see, until recent times, we're looking at LCOs for the generation in thermal plants.
LCOs
but now,
being?
light crude oil. Now we are looking at gas. And we are also looking at E&I gas coming on stream very soon, which will also give us improved quantities in terms of the gas. We've also done some tinkering with the gas prices and ensure that gas prices have come down. So if with all of these you are still going to say that there's increasing cost of generation, it really doesn't add up.
Are they lying to you?
I'm not saying they are lying, but I'm saying that perhaps they have not taken into cognizance all of these developments that I'm talking about. For example,
but they must know their operations more than you.
They do know their operations, but I'm saying that, for instance, example, gas pricing is an issue of policy, which is controlled by the ministry. At the end of the day, if the policy has been set and the ministry is also aware of the kind of quantities that are going to be coming on from the ENI gas plant, among others, ECG would today say that, well, as of today, that's a policy decision. We are looking at what exists today. I hope you understand. And based on that, they've made those projections and are saying that this is what we need. But from a policy point of view, we are aware that these changes are coming on stream, and we are also aware that we have enough buffers in the system that these fears of ECG are not very well funded. That is why at the end of the day we've made those proposals that we have made, and we are 100% sure that those proposals are for a sustainable Ghana, are for a sustainable electricity production, and they will ensure that Ghana is able to compete in a global world where our citizens will be able to produce so that we can all develop as a country. That's the level to which we are taking it. We are not foreign exchange losses, for instance, is a cyclical issue. But this year, for instance, you realize that we are in February and the cedi is already beginning to make gains against the dollar, which is one of the fastest rates. The argument as to whether it is an issue of the weak dollar, it's an issue of the strong cedi, is an argument that we can all have. But normally, cyclically, what you'd notice is that the cedi will continue to trend till somewhere around March, April, where it begins to appreciate because of some revenues that will begin, the dollar revenues that will begin to flow into the country at that point in time. This time around, we are actually beginning to see a stronger output of the cedi at an earlier point in time. So all of these things have been factored into the pricing, and that is why we are saying that we are very confident that we'll get what it is that we want. Ghana Water, yes, but it does not fall under the purview of the Energy Ministry.
Yeah,
so
but it's still a utility, and it falls under PURC.
I agree, but PRC, the ministry does not supervise the work of PRC. It is a purely independent body, so we cannot comment necessarily on the needs or whatever of Ghana Water. What we can do is look at the energy sector, which we have supervisory authority over. And we are saying that all the proposals that have been made by NEDCO, for instance, by GRIDCO, for instance, by NEDCO, GRIDCO, and by ECG. The reason why VRA isn't there is because VRA are power producers, and then there are other IPPs that also go ahead to produce power. It would have been very interesting to listen to what they would also have to say, because you know that we are making a lot of changes within the energy sector, and we know that all of these changes will result in cheaper electricity. We have made some savings, and government is bent on passing those savings on to the citizens of this country.
Now, your allusion to the PURC being, say, the
Board
the
of
board of
directors,
directors in an organization. What happens if PRC decides to grant these increases?
Well,
What can the government do?
Well, if they do, they do. But what we know is that we have run the computations, we have done all the various scenarios that we expect PRC will do, and that is the best decision that we believe PRC will come out with.
You're watching GH1 TV. My guest is Nana Damwa. He's head of communications at the Ministry of Energy. We're looking at utility service providers who have proposed increases in their tariffs and arguments against those increases. And we'll see how everything plays out in the end and what kind of impact it will make to you and I who have to pay for those utilities. You can send us your comments on 0246 020 580. Now, let's do a little bit of evaluation. So the president yesterday evaluated 4 of his ministers. Today's graphic says president evaluates ministers' performance, page 16. So he's been doing some evaluation. 4 ministers have spoken to.
Yes.
Minister for National Security,
yes.
Minister for Trade,
yes.
Minister for, and there are 2
Foreign
more.
Affairs.
Foreign Affairs.
And then Mr. Danbojo, Minister for Regional Reorganization and Development.
Give us an insight as to exactly how this went about. Was it behind closed doors, one-on-one, or there were people taking notes?
Well, I wouldn't know that because I wasn't there in the meeting yesterday. But what I know is that this president takes a very serious view of performance and targets and all of that. Now, he appointed 110 ministers. There was a lot of hue and cry about it. He came out to justify that, look, I have appointed each of these individuals and I have given them targets to look at and to achieve. And I believe that if these individuals are able to perform to the targets that I have set for them, we would develop much more faster as a country than we normally would. Today, what we are seeing is that he's going back to each of these individuals, calling them, sitting down with them and challenging them to justify how far or how well they have done in relation to the targets that he has given to them. Now, an unexamined life is obviously not worth living. In times past, you know, issues of appointment of ministers, among others, have merely been on the basis of political expediency. What that word political in this configuration of political expediency means has been left a lot to the imagination. This time around, we're actually seeing that this president is serious. I gave you targets to achieve A, B, C, D. At the end of the day, I have a minister for monitoring and evaluation, and he will present his report to me. I'll call you and ask you to justify what were your strengths, what were your weaknesses, how did you perform against all of it. And at the end of the day, I believe that every minister will walk out of that meeting knowing his faith, that if indeed you performed, you would know, because the president would have been able to put you to the test and said, this is my measuring rod. Were you able to meet the standard or not? I think it's very innovative that for the very first time in the history of this country, this is actually happening. And it will also help to...
It's possible that it was happening in previous administrations, but it wasn't made open like this. It's possible.
Then at least, if not for anything at all,
first time it's open.
The level of transparency is key. And that's a key change that Ghanaians voted for.
So his minister for evaluation, is he akin to an HR manager who has prepared a report on the staff and he's now giving it to the CEO to have a look at?
So
is that how it works?
So the president set targets for each and every minister. These targets were made available to the Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation. The task of the Minister of Monitoring and Evaluation was to measure how each of these ministers did against the targets that were set for them. Now the report has been delivered to the president. These are the targets. This is how we monitored. This is how we rate each and every minister. The president will then call you in. Look, I gave you this target. Tell me how you performed. Okay, but this is what my report says, and I think that you defaulted here and here and here. Overall, I'll give you 65%. That's up to him. Okay, I don't think you did very well. I'll give you 20%. That's also up to him. But I'm saying that we are lifting the caliber of political leadership from what it used to be, that it is at the mercy of the president, and so the president owes nobody any explanation whatsoever, to that standard where now the president actually made some decisions. The people of Ghana raised questions. He himself, personally, he did not send the Minister of Information or anybody, personally came out and explained to the people of Ghana. And he's taking further steps to ensure that those decisions he made are being held to the test. At the end of the day, it is known that some reshuffling would occur. And all of this is to ensure that he is able to live up to the promises that he himself, as president, made to the good people of Ghana. At the end of the day, he is very mindful of the fact that as president, his evaluation will definitely come. And it will come in the 2020 elections, where the people of Ghana would also look at him and say, you made these promises to us. We are judging you on the basis of these promises that you made. And we believe that, well, you've done enough, so we'll give you a second term. Or we don't think that you've done enough, we will not give you another term. Please go home and have a rest. So it is on that line, it is on that basis that he is continuing to examine his own leadership of the Ghanaian system, of the Ghanaian country, through his delegates, who are the ministers who he has appointed.
Based on this rate of evaluating 4 ministers a day, this thing could take about 5-6 weeks. Is that when the reshuffle will happen?
Well, I cannot speak in terms of those timelines, but what I can say is that 4 or 5 ministers a day also means that he's not taking time off the work that he's supposed to do to concentrate solely on this. But he's managing to do the work that he's supposed to do and still finding time after hours to be able to do this critical task of evaluation. It also sends a message to everybody that, look, if even ministers as high as the senior minister, persons as high as ministers of state are being brought before the president and evaluated, I think that in turn what you will see is that the ministers will also pay more attention to the persons that they work with in their various offices, because if they are not able to deliver, it goes to the president. The president will fault them for it. So they would also in turn pay more attention to the staff that they work with. And overall, it is hoped that the efficiency in this country in terms of delivering the public goods and services, in terms of delivering the leadership that we desire of our political leaders, will improve.
What do you reckon the attrition rate will be? How many will be fired?
I cannot say.
10, 20?
I cannot say. I'm not in the mind of the president. But I believe that the president has very good reason for doing all of this. There is also a certain...
is he bowing to pressure, which suggested that he initially had employed too many people? 110 was just too crazy for a small country like Ghana, and so this is just window dressing to soften the U-turn.
If you know the president very well, he's a man of strong conviction. He's a man that when he made that decision and a lot of blowback came, he stood before the people of Ghana and defended this decision that, look, I know you have given me a mandate. I know majority of you are not pleased by these things, but I beg you, you gave me a mandate for a reason, and this is how I intend to do it. He is now going ahead to evaluate it, because you see, in life, as has been said, the unexamined life is not worth living. Now, in account, for instance, they say the person who is weeding his way forward doesn't know if he's going on a crooked path or not. So sometimes it pays to stop and look back and see that, okay, I was intending to move from Kumasi to Takrady. Am I on the right path? And it's exactly that which the president is doing. So these evaluations are very critical. It also shows you that he's a man who means business. He said he's a man who is in a hurry, but in the haste, he wants to ensure that he's moving in the right direction and he's not making unnecessary mistakes and he's not missing key milestones which will ensure that the promises that he made will not be delivered. It's all a part of trying to deliver to the good people of Ghana the developments that he promised. That's all.
20 minutes to 8 o'clock, you're watching GH1 TV. My guest is Nana Damwa, Head of Communications at the Ministry of Energy. My name is Kafui Day. We're looking at the top stories in the papers. I know you're itching to talk about Amidu, but hold on for a while. There are other issues in the system. Back page of today's Ghanaian Times. Over 530 police investigators will be trained this year. How does this strike you?
Very good. Very good.
You would say that, wouldn't you?
Very, very good. Well, I mean, as you may know, I have some sort of a security background. I think that 530 will help to improve the efficiency of the police. However, one major thing that I would advise or I would seek to get into the system is that they should look at the training mechanism that is put out there. I mean, we should look to improve the training mechanisms that these investigators are put through. But 530 more manpower is very good for the police service.
Are we giving them an adequate budget? The police doesn't fund themselves.
Well, as you would realize in the State of the Nation address, the president said that for the very first time, there are some agencies and some departments and services that have been funded very well. The police is a part of it. Yes, indeed, we admit that we were not able to give them the amount of money that they need to be to get to the world-class police service that we want it to be. But as compared to previous years, it's been substantially increased. So we are getting there. We will get there.
What do you think? 530 police investigators to be trained. And this year, for the whole of last year, security was topmost on the minds of a lot of people.
Yes.
And Ghanaians are just praying that they have a sense of more security. We're hearing a lot of these drive-by killings of mobile money people and just a sense of insecurity, especially in the big towns. And you reckon with 530 police investigators extra to be trained this year, this should calm people down? And
I really don't think that these security issues are new issues. I think that they've always been there. There's been a lot of focus on it in the past year. You know, as a country, from time to time, our attention is drawn onto particular issues, and we tend to focus on them and try to improve them. So in the last year, for instance, what we have seen is a certain keen sense of focus on security matters in this country. And I think it's also very good. Now we will begin to see the responses that are critical for the security of this country to improve. It is also a well-known fact that as any country continues to develop, it faces challenges, and these challenges come in so many forms. For the last year, it's been security, and it's been huge. I agree. So we are rolling out measures to ensure that the sense of security is beefed and Ghanaians really begin to feel safer and safer each and every day. So we'll get there.
Former Deputy Attorney General in court challenges Amidu's nomination as special prosecutor, but vetting to go on. Daily Graphic. So this news broke yesterday. Dr. Dominic Anyine is praying Supreme Court to declare that by reason of the fact that Mr. Amidu is 66 years old, he isn't qualified or eligible to be nominated as special prosecutor under Section 13(3) of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2018 at 959. We do understand that vetting will proceed nevertheless. What are your thoughts on this?
This is becoming a classic Anyine. It's becoming a classic Anyine. Dr. Dominic Anyine has once again pulled an Anyine. He's done what he's beginning to be known for in this country.
It is well within his right to test the interpretation of the law. He's not doing anything illegal.
I'm not saying that he's doing anything wrong, but I'm saying that he's pulling an Anyine. In recent days, he's been known for some sort of gymnastics that always result in controversial, you know, actions. The Cash for Seat Committee report is the same Dr. Dominic Anyine who said his laptop has crashed, and there were all sorts of, you know, issues that led to the controversy. That now we have a formal report that has been presented and accepted by Parliament, and we have the Dr. Anyine report. Even though he was a member of the committee and he was supposed to have been in a hotel, to have worked with the committee members to ensure that we reach closure on that.
It's got nothing to do with this.
I'm saying that. That's what he did in one instance.
That's just one instance.
Yeah, now, I mean, just a week afterwards, he has gone to court in a last-minute, you know, Rambo-style showdown. It's classic ambush strategy to ensure that, you know, he's.
But lawyers have their tricks.
I know, and that's why I'm saying that he's beginning to be known for these things.
Is it necessarily bad?
I don't want to use the word tricks.
Is it bad?
Well,
it's strategy.
If you consider
lawyers have strategies.
If you consider tricks to be good, fine.
They'll call it strategy.
Well, it's an issue of semantics, but I'm saying that the man is beginning to be known for such, and I'm struggling to find an alternate word for the word tricks.
What is wrong with this challenge?
Well, you see, I really at this time, that is what we want to focus our attention on. A man's age, that he is 66 years, and so of all the things that you could have brought up, the only thing that you can now use against him now is that his age. Fine. I'm refusing to comment on the substance of the matter because, well, as you may know, he's filed it before the court, and so I cannot really get into what I think are the issues. I know that he's quoted some other authorities, decisions of the Supreme Court itself to support his case. I do not think necessarily that the cases that he has cited or the principal case of PC appeal for it is as relevant as he thinks it is. But I will not, again, for fear of being hauled before a court, go into what I actually think. I'll just look at it from the peripheral. And from the peripheral, what I can say is that I don't think that really, at this point in time, this is it. And it is also beginning to come across as though the NDC is very afraid of Mr. Martin Amidu becoming the special prosecutor in this country.
What do you think their most critical question will be to him at the vetting today?
Well, we wait to see. But It is on record that they have stated that this will be the longest vetting in the history of this country.
They've sounded the warning.
They've sounded the warning. And why should that be so? Why should
they want to make sure that he's the right man?
Why? Why?
Because the special prosecutor is not
when you're vetting the attorney general,
an ordinary Joe like me.
So when you were vetting the attorney general, you didn't want to be sure that we had the right man, and it didn't take us a whole day.
I wouldn't know. I don't speak for the NDC.
But you see, I'm saying that some of these statements, some of these sentiments, when they are expressed, give a certain impression to the ordinary person. And bear in mind that the special prosecutor is supposed to fight purely corruption cases. Purely corruption cases. So if it looks as though a particular political party is up in arms to fight the appointment of someone who is known to have been fighting corruption even from his personal resources, then it creates a certain impression. What are you afraid of?
Do you reckon he'll sail through?
What are you seeking to have?
You reckon he'll sail through?
I don't see anything that will block him.
Okay.
I do not see anything that will block him. I think that if there's anybody in Ghana today that has shown that he has the mettle, that he has the zeal, that he has the tenacity to fight corruption in all its forms, it is Mr. Martin Amidu. Clearly, the exhilaration, the sense of exhilaration that went through the country on the day his name was announced tells you that this is the desire of the people of this country.
All right.
For anyone to think that he, through any mechanism at all, can subvert the will of the people and still be at peace with the people, I wait to see how that will pan out.
Nana Damwa is the very eloquent head of communications at the Ministry of Energy. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And let's read a couple of messages before we go to the next segment. We need our ministers back, Mr. President. We're not ready to take any other person apart from Suleiman Al-Hassan. We're becoming impatient. Okay, Upper West, you want your minister back. Okay, he's on suspension right now. Good morning to you. Today is the vetting of the first special prosecutor, Mr. Martin Amidu. I'm looking forward to him being confirmed by Parliament, regardless of the former Deputy Attorney General's court suit against him. My regards to all your friends. That's Afrani, Electricals, Parkusu, Estate Kumasi. The NDC should give us a break. Okay. No amount of lawsuits can withdraw this nomination. The suit is a waste of public time and a plot to delay his vetting. What does the age of Mr. Amidu have to do with the work of the special prosecutor? And that's Walanyo in Akwete. And finally, Ghanaians are highly disappointed with the performance of our president and his government. Living conditions in the country are very bad. He should do something. Ghanaians are suffering under MPP leadership from Mr. Yele Yang from Wa in the Upper West region. My name is GHToday. That was your breakfast review. Thank you for your messages. Keep them coming in 0246 020580. We have a Valentine's promotion. 3 couples are going to have dinner at Royal Senchi. All you have to do is send us a message, WhatsApp, telling us how much you love your spouse in 14 words, and tell us what you know about Royal Senchi Hotel. 0246 020580. There's a conversation on HIV and AIDS coming up in the next corner. Stay with us.
Wake up to a friend.